Yes, next in our alert series, and these are extraordinary alerts now, extraordinarily urgent alerts. The one that everybody must put aside what they were thinking before now and evaluate is the 2023 election. The centrality of the 2023 election in this union dispute. What is it about the 2023 election that connects with the terror we are seeing? What is it about 2023 election that connects with the constitution which we have already defeated, but which some people are trying to drag us to go to revalidate in some way by way of election? And so there's a triangle there in which the two sides, according to this map, are on two opposite sides in the battlefield we are caught in, the battlefield called Nigeria. From where things are, the constitution that enabled the Caliphate owners of Nigeria, the constitution that seized all the assets of everybody by way of the 68 items on the exclusive list, the economic assets, the constitution that confiscated the guns in the land into the hands of an illicit federal government, now hijacked by the Fulani, the constitution that has our signature as authorization for the union itself, in which, in the preamble, let the lawyers in the land listen carefully. Let those who know where to find them, ask them, confront them with this video and ask them whether it's not so. The senior advocates, the professors of law, and all of those who go running their mouth all over the place about free and fair election. The NGO people, let people confront them with these revelations. The question of whether we have submitted our lands and our people into the Union of Nigeria as defined by the 1999 Constitution, as claimed in that preamble, is what is central in this union dispute. Because we say we have not met, we have not agreed to form a union, and we've not written any constitution as claimed in the preamble to the 1999 Constitution, because that is what is holding onto our land in the name of a federal government of Nigeria, in the name of the Federation of Nigeria that died in 1966. It is that preamble to that constitution that is holding our various lands into the union that the Fulani is now about to, trying to appropriate for themselves, albeit in our name. So, if it is that constitution that is responsible for all of that, for locking us down into a union of death, for seizing all our economic assets, for confiscating all the guns and putting in the hands of those who are bent on exterminating us, for making it impossible for us to generate electricity for ourselves or build our infrastructure by ourselves, that make it impossible for us to elect who will govern us, so that people in Abuja pretending to be INEC can decide for everybody what will happen in every locality. That is what that constitution is doing. And the intervention of this Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, which began right after Nadeco, playing out as Pronaco at the point we were having a meeting of the nationalities to say, look, let us put aside all of what happened before and agree. 2005, 2006, Buhari was part of the Fulani delegation that came to that discussion, 164 ethnic delegations, sitting for 2 years. We sat in Lagos, Port Harcourt, Enugu, Jos, Kano, and back in Lagos at plenaries. There's nobody among those who are parading themselves in Abuja that they didn't get involved at one point or the other, and the US and EU sent observer missions in all those times. We called a meeting of the owners of Nigeria to decide whether we want to carry on in the union, and if we say yes, on what terms. And it had an outcome. So when you hear about NINAS, it is the culmination of all those years, almost 22 years of continuous action involving large numbers of people, cutting across all the ethnic identifiable ethnic nations across Nigeria, the ones who are locked in here by the mischief of 1914, by the British in their colonial venture. And it is in our collective quest to rescue ourselves from the worse than apartheid union Nigeria has become for all of us. The Fulani imposed constitution of Nigeria is why we are slaves in our land, is why we are being killed, is why we are being impoverished to become the global poverty capital for a country as endowed as we are. That constitution is the reason why our people are living in exile, economic exile all across the world. Go to the US, go to Asia, go to Europe. It is that constitution that makes life impossible here. And so our intervention was to work out the alternative to it. Since it is our signature that was implanted on it, again illicitly, by the people who imposed it by decree, Absalom Abaka and his co-travelers in 1999. And so, having done all of what we did from after Nadeko, by way of Pronaco, the MNN that went to court in 2007, to provide a framework within which Nigeria could ease out that constitution and get the owners of the land to decide where they want to go with their sovereignties. We went on from there to the joint multi-regional actions that began with the solemn assemblies to repudiate that constitution formally after we had gone to court in 2007 to say we did not make that constitution. And if you file such a case after having a countrywide meeting, by the way, at Pronaco, all the groups that were already carrying arms against the Nigerian state, Asari Dokuba and his Niger Delta Volunteer Force, the Guardian Adams and his OPC, the Masob of Wazirika of the time, and all kinds of other groups in between that were not too well known, all the groups that were carrying arms were persuaded by that process to come put their guns aside to discuss with the rest of Nigeria for what we do with our union that was failing. And so, what government could not do in calling a meeting that will discuss everything, starting with the first question of whether we want to carry on in the union, we didn't make. You know, we were able to do it. And the consensus we built from there became basis of now launching an attack on the foundation of that constitution by which we have been enslaved, the 1999 constitution. That attack was rolled out in the May of 2007 with plaintiffs that included Nohoro and Sisiono and Ojoko, later joined by Shoyinka and all kinds of others, Bishop Bonigi, Bankole Oki, the senior advocate, and the two persons that were being held for treason at the time, Asari Dokuba and Wazirike, by Obasanjo, who grabbed them at the time. So we launched a formal engagement against that constitution so that we can ease it out like South Africa eased out the apartheid constitution. But those who felt they had all the guns and they could have their way and force everybody around, insisted that it would not be addressed. They wobbled on to elections. And so we told the nationalities to go and make their constitutions ready, because when it comes to enforcement, the majority, and who is this majority? The whole of the South, the whole of the Middle Belt is in this alliance. I'm addressing this, I'm addressing us now in my capacity as co-convener of NINAS, the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, the platform, the aegis under which all of us are struggling to retrieve our sovereignties that have been hijacked by this illicit federal government, in which we have no input across the three arms, across all the points of control, because the constitutional arrangements that will have guaranteed that have been turned away, have been overtaken since 1966, 67. And so we come down to the solemn assemblies. I'm just letting us know what this NINAS is. NINAS didn't just come up 2 days ago. It's the culmination of a 22-year process that involved the peoples of the country across the length and breadth, including those who are carrying arms, that involved all of the international stakeholders, the owners of Shell and Mobil, because if it becomes a boxing bout of course, they will have to be called in. We saw it in 1967 to 1970 that they came to the battlefield. Whatever they did then, of course, that was then. Now we have gone round to lay it before everybody. And so we got the nationalities in these 3 blocks we saw here. The Yoruba block here, the Lower Niger block here involving the South, South, and Southeast as ethnic nationalities, and the Middle Belt in all of this, minus the ones who have seceded from our secular union, that have embraced the Caliphate, that has embraced Sharia. So it is in this formation of 1, 2, 3 that we have this alliance, each repudiating by solemn assembly the 1999 Constitution for themselves. 27th of April 2015 was when it happened in Port Harcourt. Go to YouTube today, click Solemn Assembly of the Peoples of the Lower Niger. You will see when they came forward to say they are no longer going to live with this. The one of the Yoruba took place on the 7th of September in 2017 at Adamasingba Stadium. Their governors were all there, their traditional rulers were there, and all kinds of their chief political actors. The stadium was filled. That was the day the Yoruba told the global community they will not proceed with that fraud of a constitution. On the 18th of July in 2018, the Middle Belt gathered in Makurdi and did the same. So with the 3 repudiating the 1999 Constitution as basis of union, at a time the Sharia belt had seceded from the secular union we thought we were building. We're not, they've exercised their own right to self-determination a long time ago. They just regrouped and are trying to conquer us afresh, away from the constitution that we have defeated. What the reason for this broadcast is to let us know that that constitution has been completely defeated by the coordinated actions of the owners of the sovereignties that have been hijacked and confiscated by that constitution. Because it was after these 3 blocks had repudiated in response to the secession of the bloc that imposed Sharia in defiance and negation of our, of the union agreement that was already disputed. And so we now moved on to what we call the Freedom Park Proclamation, in which we notified the global community that matters have come to where we are going to have to, save ourselves from death. And it was from there that we moved on to the constitutional force majeure of December 16, 2020. That constitutional force majeure is an ongoing thing until it gets to its destination. That is, it is designed to wind down and wind up the operation of the 1999 Constitution, to terminate the union of death that it had imposed on all sides, to also provide the framework for working out peacefully the replacements, which will be in 2 stages, in which people will be voting in the first stage in referendum to recommit to a union, because the collapse of that constitution is the end of the union anchored on it. Anybody who doesn't understand this should go and ask Awalu Yadudu, the quota professor, that raised alarm in middle of 2020 that that action of force majeure was going to compromise, that was going to unhinge the legal basis of the Federation of Nigeria. Awalu Yadudu that processed that constitution for the military, for the Absalom Abaka, who was, he used to be, what's it called, Abacha's chief legal advisor. Awalu Yadudu, to tell us when we say we have defeated the 1999 Constitution, Awalu Yadudu got wind of the constitutional force majeure before it was activated. He went to the media. Guardian newspaper reported, I'm sure if somebody researches, they will find it. Guardian newspaper reported that Professor Awalu Yadudu, the chief midwife of the 1999 Constitution, did raise alarm that if this constitutional force majeure thing is allowed to go, he was hoping that government could go and stop the people, the owners of the land, from exercising their sovereignty. He was saying that if that constitutional force majeure was allowed to go on, that it will unhinge the legal basis of the Federation of Nigeria. I'm reporting to you now as co-convener of that NINAS with a whole number of people. You saw their names in the advertorial we took when we put out the 128 statesmen cutting across the length and breadth of this alliance territory. I report to you today that that force majeure was rolled out. It has met all the objectives. The consultations that needed to be done had been done. All of the preparations that had to be done in one place or the other are in place. And the legal basis of the Federation of Nigeria stands unhinged. And that brings us to the point where we now begin to ask what will happen. We are not anarchists, and therefore in that force majeure, we also made provision for the transition. We say, look, those in government house are not our problem at all. It is the constitution by which our lives are being ruined that we are quarreling with. That's what we've been working to dislodge. And we've come to the point where there's consensus to get rid of it. The few people that gather to swear to defend and uphold that constitution, waving one party flag or the other, are just too few. They are not the kind of people you begin to worry about what to do, because the owners of the land are going to ignore them and take their land. If you now stand in Ibadan and say it is because somebody in Abuja told you that that constitution is the only thing that will prevail, the Ibadan people are going to show you what they do with people like you if you are from their part. The same thing as in Ijo, the same thing as in Igbo, the same thing as Thief. We are proud of Governor Samuel Otom in what he's been able to do in the place, in recognizing that that constitution is dead, and that the reason they could not carry arms before is defeated, and therefore signing into law a bill that had been approved by his assembly for people who are surrounded by armed invaders to carry arms. So the Benue is able to issue firearms. All the governors of the South and Middle Belt, anybody who is not doing exactly the same thing, to pass a law, send a bill to your state assembly, get them to pass the bill, sign that bill into law, to issue firearms to those, especially the states that have passed anti-open grazing bill into law. By what means are you going to enforce all of that if you do not, give the people who are going to enforce it guns to, the weapons to match the kind of people, the kind of weapons that those who are invading them are carrying? So it is within your reach now. That constitution is dead and defeated. Now, where does 2023 election come in this discussion? Those who that title deed by which these invaders are prevailing, by which that illicit federal government is now the owner of everybody and their assets, holding on to the oil and gas assets of the Niger Delta, holding on to the ports of Lagos and other things, that constitution having been defeated, these people who want to reconquer you are looking for more time. They have to get more time by all means to continue what they are doing to get somewhere. They've not gotten anywhere now. They are just being stymied. They've been stopped by this campaign of organizing those who own the sovereignty. That's why they've not been able to succeed. And so they require more time. And their only hope for getting that more time is to drag us to another election under this constitution we have repudiated, we've defeated. And so for them, if they're able to drag us towards that election, even now, getting people to be buying form and waving flag of whose turn it is or whose turn it is not, if they're able to bring us if we're able to put us in that tunnel of going to election, they already bought the balance of this. That's the 1 year to the time that the election should be happening next year to continue their onslaught. They are not stopping in the onslaught. They are not stopping in the invasion. They are not stopping in the attempt to conquer us by the invasion. They also have another plan B. In one of the recent broadcasts alerts, we talked about plan A, plan B, and plan C, in which the election is plan C. The election is playing two roles: to keep the South and Middle Belt busy, talking about who will govern, whereas the invasion is continuing. We saw it in the train attack and what they say the land has to be handed over to them now. They've become impatient. They are feeling defrauded. And so it is only in dragging us to that, pushing us into that tunnel of election. I think it was yesterday that I saw on TV, what's his name, the one chairing INEC for them, Mahmoud, or whatever he's called, saying that no matter what the situation is, they will go to election. That caliphate is desperate now to go to election. I also saw the National Security Advisor trying to lend Monguno also, trying to lend his voice to it, that it is the duty of all of us to make sure we go to election. Again, we remember Baba Ahmed. These are now the caliphate proprietors of what they are doing. Hakim Baba Ahmed was telling us the other time that it is only by all of us joining hands that we can get to election, that to ease out the Buhari who doesn't agree with the restructuring. These are all gimmicks. The caliphate wants to get more time to continue their conquest. The outcome of the election is already predetermined. They don't even know how to get there based on what is coming at them from all sides. They didn't anticipate anybody could defeat that constitution. They didn't anticipate anybody could organize the kind of alliance we have now. They didn't anticipate anybody could get to Washington and push them out from where they used to be in the inner workings of things. They are now strangers in that place. And so the other side of the coin is that the people who have done all these efforts to defeat that title deed, that constitution by which they are bound into Nigeria and made slaves there by this caliphate, they also have a chance to finally get rid of this enslavement. If the only task is stopping the journey to that election as a demonstration of their resolve, as a demonstration of their rejection of that constitution. The international community is waiting for us to do just that. There's no other thing left between us and our freedom. It is to demonstrate by rejecting the journey to election in 2023 that we have repudiated that constitution and we're interested, we're desirous of, we're now very anxious to recover our sovereignty. If we don't, these people to whom these lands have been promised for helping kill off other people to bring those who came to power in 2015, these people are waiting in your forest all the way to Boni, all the way to Badagry. From the point they entered in the upper part, they have mapped out all the Nigerian land. The Fulani from Mali, the Fulani from Senegal, they all know where they have been mapped. The people you call Fulani herdsmen are the advanced teams that came ahead of the others to kill off the owners and become the new owners. And that was why the documentation to make them citizen and to make them indigene after 5 years were all being smuggled through the National Assembly of Lawan and Bajami Amila, his handmaid. And so it is our task now to stop that journey so that that constitution will go down. If you want to research how it will all happen, search for what we call domino 2. You see the graphics that the rejection of the constitution is now supported by rejection of election. If that election is taken down, the constitution goes down and the union standing on it goes, and we go to transition. Everything we are doing now will end in transition. That's why we put the 5-point proposition in that constitutional force majeure. I would think the summary of it all is that if we join, especially the politicians from the South and Middle Belt, across party lines, we are not talking about PDP and APC now, if we join, if the South and the Middle Belt will join in the journey to election, pretending they are going to get a better day tomorrow, they are just lining themselves up for extermination. If the South and Middle Belt join at the invitation of Ninas to stop the journey to election, your freedom and your sovereignty is back in your hand. The caliphate has no other opportunity, has no other mechanism for prevailing in this matter. They've been defeated comprehensively. Their title deed is defeated, and there's nothing they can do about it. Everything is now in your hand to do. Do you want to perish? Then go to election. Do you want to survive? Then stop the journey to the election. We'll have to end it there. Thank you.